This video is brought to you by Babbel, one of the top language learning apps in the world. I hate to admit this, but while I can understand and read Spanish well enough, speaking it, admittedly, isn't my strong suit. And that sucks when I want to cover more Spanish mysteries like Obey the Walrus. Thankfully, that's where Babbel comes into play. Babbel teaches real-world conversations to prepare you for practical use, instead of asking where the biblioteca is. Their lessons are crafted by real language teachers and are scientifically proven to help you start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks. I really do have a Babbel account to practice speaking Spanish, and not just learning about translations. And if that's not enough, there's a 20-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it risk-free. So click the link in the description below to get 60% off your Babbel subscription. Again, click the link in the description below si quieres aprender un lengua nueva. Thanks to Babbel for sponsoring this video. In early 2023, an interesting piece of lost media appeared on Reddit. A user named Jedi Rain stated that he found a 16mm film reel at an estate sale. The film canister was suspiciously labeled restricted. After purchasing and digitizing it, the Reddit user discovered that it contained never-before-seen footage of the Normandy invasion, in which the Allied forces invaded and freed France from Nazi Germany in World War II. In their own words, "As far as I can tell, this is unseen footage. The film appears to show the aftermath of the initial invasion of Normandy. I am in contact with the executive director at the Juno Beach Center. They will be accepting the film as a donation. It is exciting to see it going to a museum. Thank you all for the expertise, help, and appreciation for history." "1995's Rayman was a colossal hit for Ubisoft, garnering rave reviews and becoming one of the best-selling games for the original PlayStation. It was followed by a sequel, 1999's Rayman 2: The Great Escape, in which Rayman must save his girlfriend and the land of the Fairy Glade from the evil Admiral Razorbeard and his army of robots. Likewise, this game was massively acclaimed, cementing Rayman as a staple in video game history. During the development of this game, an animated short was produced called Rayman's Training. Not much was known about its plot, and no one seemed to have owned a copy besides Ubisoft. They used brief snippets of the short in several of their advertisements for other Rayman games, giving fans a small glimpse of the missing short. From here on out, things only get stranger. It was discovered that Rayman's Training was listed on the website of the French National Audiovisual Institute. The archive webpage gives many details of the missing short, such as a broadcast date of 1998 and a runtime of 2 minutes and 50 seconds. It was also revealed that it screened at the Imagina 1998 Film Festival. Might they have a copy? Searchers attempted to contact Imagina to inquire about Rayman's Training, but to no avail. Their messages went unanswered, and the search stalled. It wouldn't be until 2022 when the short was randomly found within the game files of a prototype. Beyond Good and Evil is a 2003 Ubisoft game developed by Michael Ansel, who also created Rayman. The prototype files for this game were dumped online, and found within them was the coveted Rayman's Training short. Strangely, the animation is of very low quality and contains no audio. It's also a minute shorter than what was listed in the French National Audiovisual Institute, so there's likely still more to find. Still, this was a huge discovery for the Rayman community, and one of the oddest ones on this list. Super Mario 64 is a 1996 Nintendo 64 game, as well as the first 3D iteration within the Mario series of games. While ambitious for its time, Nintendo apparently had plans to further expand the game in some caliber, with a version developed for the short-lived 64DD peripheral. The 64DD was on the market for only a little over a year. It was only available in Japan, and could only be purchased through a mail-order service. Long story short, Nintendo initially had big plans for the add-on, including expansions to already existing N64 titles. This was the case for many Nintendo 64 games, as 64DD expansions of Ocarina of Time and F-Zero X were in development as well, with the latter being the only one to see an official release. Super Mario 64 DD was presented as a demo at Space World 1996, and footage does exist. It was covered in magazines at the time as well, with many claiming that the game would be a direct sequel to Super Mario 64. Another big rumor was that this updated version would have Luigi as a playable character, as well as multiplayer support, aiding the L is real rumor of the time. The 64DD was discontinued in February of 2001, with Super Mario 64DD fading into obscurity. That's until decades later, in 2014, when an unexpected discovery was made at a Japanese thrift store of all places. In 2014, a French collector came across the prototype game disc while at a secondhand store in Japan. How and why the game ended up being there remains completely unknown, though they proceeded to purchase it and provide gameplay footage online. The collector, known as AFONFGV, or Jimmy130, would go on to dump the ROM and provide it to 64dd.org. Despite all those aforementioned rumors, the game is pretty much the same as the original Super Mario 64, with the only noteworthy differences being improved textures, different music in Peach's castle, and some bugs during the Wiggler boss in Tiny Huge Island, as well as the game's official title being revealed as Super Mario Disc version. It's possible that other discs and builds exist, as this specific one recovered is dated 1999. Duke Nukem is an action game series initially made for Microsoft DOS computers by Apogee Software. The series saw regular releases up until 1996, though it was upon the development of Duke Nukem Forever, the fourth official entry, that the series saw an almost 15-year gap in releases. It was over this period of development that Duke Nukem Forever faced a variety of problems. This included the dev team failing to make deadlines, lack of funds, and switching the game itself to different software engines. Reportedly, at least 5 different engines. 2 trailers were released early on in development, the initial 1997 teaser and the 2001 E3 trailer. After that, the project appeared to fall into development hell. Finally, 3D Realms, Forever's original developer, had gone under, and the development team disbanded completely. In 2010, however, Gearbox Studios had obtained the rights and resumed development. Now, despite everything, the game did see an official release in 2011, only 1 year following the Gearbox acquisition. It went as one would expect, and Duke Nukem Forever was heavily panned. The end result looked nothing like what was revealed during that 1998 E3 showing. Because of this, most fans don't believe the 2011 release to be the true Duke Nukem Forever. Many fans speculated on what could have been, and how much was able to be completed by 3D Realms. It may be this online speculation that eventually resulted in the bizarre circumstances of how the game eventually was found. on May 8th, 2022, a video was uploaded to 4chan by a hacking group known as X0R_JMP. This video contained never-before-seen gameplay of the 2001 build of Duke Nukem Forever. Included was a message saying, quote, "Duke is coming. Here's a taste. Happy Mother's Day." The group claimed they would leak the entire ROM in June. The gameplay footage was eventually shown to George Broussard, a developer at 3D Realms, who claimed that it, quote, "looks real." Though he had no interest in discussing the build further. Broussard also added that he had no idea who was able to obtain this footage. Only 2 days later, on May 10th, the full 2001 build ended up being fully leaked. Then, on Christmas Day of the same year, the same hacking group would release a 1996 build of Duke Nukem Forever as well, once again with no information on where or how this happened. Interestingly, this build is a 2D side-scroller rather than a first-person shooter. The 2001 build Recovered remains in an incredibly unfinished state. Gameplay videos available online show how expansive this build really is. Among the most well-known pieces of lost media is the coveted pilot episode of Blue's Clues. The beloved Nick Jr. show saw a series of drastic changes in the years before its 1996 premiere. These include the titular Blue, originally being a cat named Mr. Orange. After finalizing Blue herself, as well as the interactive nature of the show, a pilot began in the mid-90s. This pilot was titled Blueprints, and was only intended to be shown to a small test audience of kindergartners to see how engaging the show would be. As many likely guessed, the pilot was a huge success, and went on to become the Blue's Clues many grew up with. Due to Blueprints only being shown to a select number of people, this pilot was unknown to the general public for 10 full years. This changed when Nickelodeon produced a 10th anniversary special for Blue's Clues in 2006, and revealed some never-before-seen clips of the pilot.
And now, after 10 years on the air, the secrets to Blue's Clues will finally be revealed.
You will come and help me with this, won't you?
Whoa! While others aspire to skidoo alongside Blue, a test audience of kids made the final casting call.
Can you help me today? What did you say?
Young Steve Burns would be their boy.
Upon this discovery, many fans began searching the internet for any trace of this mysterious pilot. Perhaps it aired on Nickelodeon at some point. Many combed through web pages and torrent sites, ultimately to find no trace of Blueprints online. Nickelodeon was even contacted directly, with many requesting a release of the pilot, or for an explanation as to why it was never released in the first place. Surprisingly, they eventually provided the latter, claiming the pilot was never released due to feeling as though it was too different from the final series. With no other leads available, the search for Blueprints quickly went cold. 14 years later, on October 16th, 2020, there was an unexpected tweet from Nick Jr.'s official Twitter account. Within it was a never-before-seen image of the Blueprints title card. With this came a resurgence in interest, and hope that Nick would release the pilot after all. Only 3 months later, in January of 2021, an Instagram post was made by Angela C. Santamero, who had worked on Blueprints. The post featured a photo of Santamero with Steve that was taken during the pilot's production. When asked if Santamero had access to Blueprints, she confirmed that a copy was in her possession. Despite requests from commenters to release the pilot, no response was received. 9 months following this post, yet another tweet would be made by Nick Jr.'s official Twitter account, this time marking the 25th anniversary of Blue's Clues and revealing more footage and information regarding Blue Prince. Despite this, the full pilot would not be released by Nick. As luck would have it, on September 9th, 2023, the complete pilot was suddenly leaked online. And that was it. After over a decade of searching, and becoming among the most infamous pieces of lost media, the full 1994 pilot was just there. Who was able to obtain this unearthed piece of media and leaked it in the first place? Nobody truly knows. What is known is that this found footage was a very rough cut, missing various segments of audio and background music. It's likely though that this was the final draft of the pilot. After all, this wasn't intended to be shown on television.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bubble Guppies is yet another well-known Nick Jr. show. The series aired from 2011 all the way until 2023. It followed a group of 6 preschool-aged children with fishtails as they attended an underwater classroom and learned early educational topics. A pilot episode, intended only to be pitched to Nickelodeon executives, was produced by Robert Skoll and Johnny Belt. This pilot was quickly greenlit. However, it was produced way back in 2006, 5 years prior to the premiere of the show itself. During those 5 years, the initial pilot became forgotten and largely unknown by the public. The 5-year gap is believed to be the result of financial struggles. While Bubble Guppies was initially set to premiere sometime in the late 2000s, the emerging recession had led to Viacom laying off 720 employees. This, unfortunately, included those with Nickelodeon and Guru Studios, the two responsible for Bubble Guppies' production. The show was picked up and funded by Wild Brain Entertainment instead, and saw its 2011 release. That 2006 pilot remained undisclosed until years later, when this video had unceremoniously surfaced on YouTube. It features clips from multiple Nickelodeon pilots, including the formerly concealed Bubble Guppies pilot. This video was made private in 2019, before its ultimate removal from the site. The reason behind this remains undetermined. The pilot itself was shown to appear similar in design to the final 2011 cartoon, as character designs and art styles largely remained the same. What did differ was the voice cast, as the characters were voiced by completely different voice actors for this pilot. Concept art and images had emerged around the same time as well, though no substantial discoveries were made aside from this. Fast forward to 2023, when a user named Doria presented a link to the file sharing platform Catbox. Contained within the link was the full, unedited 2006 pilot. This was not the only thing shared by Doria. This user had also provided the entire original pitch document for the show, put together by Skoll and Belt themselves. Someone very close to the early production of Bubble Guppies would likely be responsible for these leaks, though any and all information regarding the posters themselves remains undisclosed.
Guppy, 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 bubble, bubble, guppy, guppy, bubble guppies, bubble guppies.
Shanghai was one of those quirky episodes of early SpongeBob. The plot follows SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward as they encounter the Flying Dutchman. They become part of his ghostly crew. Except for Squidward, he's thrown in the Fly of Despair, and the group traverses Bikini Bottom to scare people. SpongeBob and Patrick aren't good at being scary, so the Dutchman fires them from his crew and plans to eat them. After escaping through the perfume department, the two steal the Dutchman's beloved dining sock. In exchange for the sock, the Dutchman offers SpongeBob and Patrick 3 wishes. The first wish gets wasted by Patrick pretty quickly. The second wish, made by SpongeBob, is to retrieve Squidward from his safe home. The final wish is to turn the Flying Dutchman into a vegetarian, preventing him from eating SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward. He still tries to anyway, and the episode has one of the trippiest endings ever. The televised version of this episode had SpongeBob making the final wish, but this wasn't always the case. When the episode premiered, Patchy the Pirate gave viewers the opportunity to vote on who made the final wish: SpongeBob, Patrick, or Squidward.
It's call-in and vote time. You get to choose how our cartoon ends today, via the phone or the internet, if you're technologically inclined. So, when I tell you to, call the number that's scrolling down there at the bottom of the screen, 1-800-624-4094, or go to nick.com. Hey, no, not now! Don't call till I tell you to. Roll the cartoon! Now, remember to vote at the end, because...
Therefore, 3 alternate endings to this episode were made. Of course, SpongeBob won, and his ending became the only one shown in future reruns. Had Patrick won, he would have wished for gum that never loses its flavor. As for Squidward, he would have wished to have never met SpongeBob and Patrick. While all 3 endings are viewable, the Patchy segments announcing Patrick and Squidward's endings were never released, and became lost for some time. In 2016, YouTube user Dark Lucario 3000 uploaded these segments online in Spanish. In 2023, Twitter user Lamel Paizo uploaded a recording of Squidward's Patchy segments in English. Now, according to the Lost Media Wiki, in 2023, a YouTube channel named Nautical Nonsense uploaded Patrick's Patchy segments in English. Apparently, this footage was sourced from a user on Discord with access to SpongeBob's production tapes. However, the original post has since been deleted.
And the winner is... Wait a sec, this must be a mistake. But the numbers don't lie. Believe it or not, the winner is... Squidward. So go ahead, relax, and enjoy our most requested ending, Squidward style.
Video game Lost Media is often confirmed to at least exist, but is rarely shown in full by those who have it in their possession. Marble Madness 2 is no exception. Intended for a 1991 release by Atari, a number of arcade cabinets have been confirmed to have been made. Even unique art and promotional material were created for the game. While the reason for cancellation remains unknown, it is commonly inferred that Atari was planning on entering the home console market and lost interest in arcade cabinets. It's also been speculated that Atari wanted to take advantage of the rise in popularity of fighting games. It's unknown what became of every Marble Madness 2 cabinet. However, over the years, a handful of collectors have come forward claiming to own a Marble Madness 2 cabinet themselves. At least 3, to be exact. Despite this, none of these collectors had been compliant when asked to dump the ROM or at least share gameplay. Reluctancy is often observed in gaming collector circles, due to a possible decrease in value. Though, eventually, on May 21st of 2022, a ROM file containing Marble Madness 2 in full unexpectedly emerged on archive.org with no further information. Software archival project MAME had wasted no time in preserving the game nonetheless. The uploader's username was Dank2079. So, who was this user? And how did they come to possess Marble Madness 2? As far as possible theories, this is what David Hayward, a longtime MAME developer, had to say. Quote, "I think the most likely explanation is the simplest. A PCB turned up, the owner dumped the ROM data from it, and put it on the Internet Archive, not wanting the attention it would bring with a more public announcement." I've talked about these before, but I admittedly glossed over the way they were found. In my defense, the way Sesame Street's gymnast segments were found was so secretive. Long story short, they were delivered anonymously to longtime Lost Media Wiki user Yoshi Killer 2S. It's a strange tale, but thankfully, he was kind enough to offer his explanation of events.
So, how I got the gymnast segments was very weird, and I don't think anything like this will happen for me ever again. But the fact it happened to me twice was just odd in and of itself. To summarize it, basically, in October of 2022, it was late at night, I was on Discord, I just had it open, and I got a DM, and I'm thinking okay, who messaged me at this hour? But it was an account I've never seen before. In fact, it was an account I think was just created, because it had no profile pic and it just had a generic username. It was just user and then a bunch of random numbers. And all the DM was just a link. The link being to the site Anon Files, which is a private file sharing site. So, me not thinking because it's late at night, I click on the link, and the link was it was 6 MP4 files, but it was something, they were all listed something generic, like pencil, ketchup, kitten, and I didn't know what these were. And in hindsight, it could have been gore. But I download them, and sure enough, they're the granny segments. And that was just weird in and of itself. Then fast forward to, I think it was October, but it was the 20th or something. I think it was somewhere in between. And I get another message from a different, not the same user, which at that point that account was deleted, so that's scary. It was a separate user. And it was another non-file link. And this link was to all the gymnast segments. The gymnast segments, I don't release them immediately, because I'm scared what to do with them. So I speak to Daikate, and although he has a good idea where they came from, there was no way to pinpoint it. It was so fucking confusing. And Daikate basically told me, it's up to me if I want to release them. So I decided to fuck with Jorge and release them the minute it struck midnight on New Year's. Just so I can claim it to be the first thing found in 2023. After I released them, I got messages from people saying, before I posted them, and, that someone said that the shorts were being shared around or something, but, anonymously, and I'm thinking, what, who the fuck sent me these? Why me? Why am I the guinea pig? No, I don't know to this day where they came from. My main theory, and it's a theory I don't like, but my main theory is that these might have came from the AAPB. But then that brings up the question, who the hell sent me this? Who had access to the AAPB? And to put it bluntly, I have no clue. I don't know. I don't know. Lost Media is fucking weird,